Hey, I'm ZSH Plays, and today I'm going to show you 10 top tips for Planet Zoo's franchise mode. So whether you want more money, better looking habitats, or a smoother gameplay experience, I've got you covered. Let's jump into the first tip. So you probably know this now, this is the most basic tip in this tutorial, but just in case, the first thing you need to do when you open a franchise zoo is go to this icon in the top right, select Settings, and then Game, and then scroll down to Animal Settings, and make sure that the reduce animal aging rate setting is all the way up to 5. This will stop your zoo going absolutely crazy with newborns every few seconds when you've got more than a few animals in there. Onto some slightly more advanced stuff. Getting your habitat sizes right is so important in franchise mode in order to make sure that the animal's welfare is at 100%. So how do we do that? Let's say you want a capybara habitat. You've looked at the Zoopedia, you've seen what sort of social group they live in, and you want to build a habitat for 4 adults, and you're going to allow room for 12 juveniles. So the Zoopedia is telling you you need 717 meters of land and 178 meters of water to keep these guys happy. So how do we work it out? What we need is a calculator. What we're going to do is take 717 and add 178, and that gives us 895 square meters that we need to keep our animals happy. Now we're going to use our secret weapon, the square root button. If we hit that, it tells us that if we build a square habitat where each wall is 29.91 meters long, we're going to have enough space for our animals. We'll build a square using the Arctic wood pieces. Each one is 4 meters long, as you know. So we'll put these in 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, and I always do one more for luck so we can put some rocks and trees in. We'll go with one more there. We've got 36 meters long. We'll do it again up here, same length, and then once we've got 2 sides in, you can just select the whole thing, duplicate it with Control D, hit Z a couple of times, spin it round, and then there we have a square habitat that is definitely going to be big enough for our animals. Terrain is super important in franchise mode. You need to make sure that you have the right types of terrain in your habitat to keep the animals happy. And despite having played this game for 2 years, unbeknownst to me, and I think quite a lot of people, the terrain painting tool or any of the terrain tools have optional controls that you cannot see. If you use the left or right square brackets on your keyboard, not only can you increase and decrease the size of the painting tool without having to use the fiddly little slider, but it has interim sizes between the sizes on the slider, so you can get really fine adjustments just by using your keyboard. So useful. Speaking of useful, if you're finding this video useful, please go ahead and hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. Next up is ticket prices. Getting the price right is absolutely vital to keep your franchise zoo going, and every time you add another animal into the zoo, the guests are willing to pay more. But how do you know how much they're willing to pay? Every time you add a new animal into the zoo, go to the entrance, select a guest who is about to pass through the turnstiles, and see what they think of the ticket price. What you want to do is for them to think the ticket price is fair. That means you've got the price exactly right. You're making as much money as you can without guests just turning around at the entrance and going home. All right, we're going to get a bit more advanced now. I'm going to teach you the enrichment trick. So have you ever noticed when you're trying to place an enrichment item, you get it in exactly the right place, you place it down, and Planet Zoo edits the terrain and completely ruins everything you've done? Well, no more. All you need to do is get the Path tab open, hold down Control, and place a piece of path wherever you want to put the enrichment item. Then you can place the enrichment item like so. The terrain will not move, and then you can just delete the path piece, and there we go, no editing required, and the enrichment is in the perfect place. Now, if you're having issues with animals escaping, or your zoo is not performing as well as you would like it to, then I've got just the tip for you, the climbing toggle. So if you build any sort of barrier out of a climbable item, like these wooden pieces that we're using here, the animals can sometimes glitch through the walls of the habitat and get onto the climbable pieces and escape. So once you finish building, group everything together. If you select the cog icon in the bottom right, you can turn climbing to off, and that will prevent the animals from doing that. If you have a load of climbable items in your zoo as well and it's affecting performance, you can simply go through and turn climbing off on any groups of items that you don't need to be climbable, and that is going to improve the performance of your zoo as well. Alright, one of the big things in the early game of franchise mode is making sure that you don't run out of money. So one of the really useful things to use in order to prevent that from happening is habitat webcams. These things are amazing. Add one of these into your habitats and it adds 1/4 of a star to your zoo's marketing rating, and they only cost $150. So if you put 5 of these in, then that's going to increase your marketing rating by the same amount as paying for a $1,000 a year low impact marketing campaign for less money. And in franchise mode, that is always good. Now, if you want to build more exciting habitats in Planet Zoo, one of the things to make sure you understand is the staff traversable area. Can really help to make a more dynamic habitat. So if we look at our porcupine habitat here and check out the staff traversable area, you can see all the blue where they can access is on the inside and they cannot get out to the outside because this little archway for the porcupines is too low for them. Obviously IRL, they can just bend down or climb over the wall or whatever, but in Planet Zoo they can't get in here. And that is fine. The way you make it work is that for the part of the area that they can't access, like the outside here, do not put any food in there. You can put as many toy enrichment items as you like in there, and they will reset themselves automatically when the keeper enters the habitat. They will clean it, even if they can't get out there, using their magic vacuuming pooper scoopers. As long as all the food and all the water is in the parts of the habitat that they can access, you'll be good to go. Knowing that enables you to make much more interesting habitats because you don't need to worry about the staff traversable area. One of the things we all love about Planet Zoo is the pathing. And one of the hardest things with pathing is trying to work out where your paths are when you're hiding them under a floor in a building. So when you have to put paths into a building where you have a custom floor, it has always been a nightmare in Planet Zoo, especially when you've got a floor like this, which is made up of about 100 rotated pieces, because in order to see where the floors were, once you place them in, the only way to do it was to individually select each piece of flooring, drag it down underground and put all the paths in, and then drag it back up to where it needed to be and get it to exactly the right position. But since the tropical pack, we have a new addition to our toolkit, the invisible paths. If you turn on the option to view all invisible paths, and when you put the paths in the building, you use one of the natural paths with the curbs turned off, then the game will actually show you where all your paths are as you're building, and that means that you can put the paths in like this, exactly where you want the guests to walk. Make sure they've got the perfect route around the building. They're not going to be walking through fountains. You can get it absolutely perfect without having to move the floor, which is amazing. On to the final tip in this video, which is to do with staff buildings. When you're building a big zoo in franchise mode, you need so many staff buildings, it can be really overwhelming. So we need staff buildings everywhere in the zoo in franchise mode. Always got to have a keeper hut, staff room, keep the staff happy. Now the last thing you want to be doing if you want a really detailed zoo like this one is trying to come up with a new design for every area in the zoo, perfectly themed to that area, because it is going to take forever. So what I do is build one generic looking, really nice staff building that I'm happy with, that doesn't have a particular theme, just a modern kind of build, and then you can put that all over the zoo, and it doesn't matter which area of the zoo you put it in, as long as it's not too close to where the guests are going to be, which you wouldn't want for a staff building anyway. It'll just sit in the background and look nice and unobtrusive. So we're going to build a little modern build here. We've got a keeper hut, a research center, and a staff room. And if need be, you can switch out the research center for mechanics or any of the other one box buildings if you need to. And then we can just put this anywhere in the zoo that we need staff buildings, and it will save us a huge amount of time. So it's worth spending the time to make one nice looking, fairly generic building, because it'll save you an enormous amount of time throughout the rest of the zoo. So this one, basically just concrete and wood. Put some windows on. I'm not even going to bother making the walls out of panels so I can recess the windows, because this is always going to be in the background. A few flowers, bit of an area for the staff to sit in, and there we go. Nice little staff building. Something like that scattered all around your zoo will really help you out in franchise mode. Those are my top 10 tips for franchise mode. They were all filmed in my San Bernardino zoo. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link on the screen now for episode 1. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye.